Hello and welcome to the Career Ready podcast. My name is Michelle Malik and I'm a career specialist with the Career Services Center. Here I have with me my two co-hosts and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi everybody, I'm Rebecca Harrington, another career specialist.
And I'm Pierre Michaels, another career specialist.
So we're really excited to be here today and discuss what it means to develop a professional brand. So I'll let Pierre take it away.
Now that you know who we are, I want to go ahead and introduce the podcast and give you an idea of what to expect as we go through today's episode and as we launch future episodes. We are calling this a resource podcast. We hope that you stick with us for every episode, but we also know as you go through that job search, you're going to be looking for content as you need it. So make sure you subscribe to access topics that are relevant to you and those episodes as they're released. Today, what you're going to hear is a general overview of professional branding and why it's needed to help you launch your career moving forward and how a Career Service Center office can help you through that process. After we go through that conversation, we're going to hear from Michelle, who will give you an insight to our resource of the day. We want to share resources with you throughout this series, and Michelle will be looking at the Career Service Center, College of DuPage's website, but there's a lot more websites out there of a similar nature you could be looking at. And finally, Rebecca will answer a listener's question. For this first episode, we've selected a common question we get asked, but please submit your questions so we can answer it on a future podcast episode.
And you can submit those questions to careerpodcast@cod.edu.
So as I mentioned earlier, this is our first episode, and with that, we want to take the time to set the expectations of what we'll be talking about in future episodes and hope that you'll stay connected with us. We will be defining core terms and establishing what you can expect as you utilize this resource podcast. With that in mind, our main topic here is professional branding and how using a Career Services Center office, such as the one here at College of DuPage, can help you present your professional brand. And that brings us to our first term, professional brand. And to help set that stage, I'm going to ask our team here some questions. Rebecca, Michelle, I'm going to name a corporation, and I want you to throw out that first thing that comes to your mind. All right?
All right, we're ready.
Sounds good.
All right, Starbucks.
Ooh, Starbucks. I love Starbucks.
I do too. That's my go-to.
Yeah, it is. So, I don't know. When I think of Starbucks, first of all, I think of very good quality coffee. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Michelle?
I think expensive.
It is expensive. I have to control myself. I can't go there every day, just treat days,
Right.
I also think of it though as a workplace.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a teacher, adjunct professor, and so a lot of grading and all that, and I would definitely spend my time at Starbucks, just chilling.
Yeah,
grading.
I would agree. It's very calm atmosphere. You kind of get in the zone there.
Yeah. And my husband and I actually also had our first date at a Starbucks. So again, special place in my heart.
That is so cute.
All right, so memories, but the coffee was the first thing Rebecca was saying. That setting, that environment, those are core components. Now another brand, Dunkin'. Thoughts on that?
What do you think, Michelle? What do you think of a Dunkin'?
Well, they also have coffee, but they have donuts too.
That's true. Definitely think of donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And the coffee is good. And now my brother loves it. I don't love it as much as Starbucks, but it's definitely quick and easy to get.
Yeah.
I don't really hang out at Dunkin' though.
Mm-mm.
It's like a get in, get out kind of place.
Yeah. And unlike Starbucks, it is not expensive.
Very good point.
All right, so you guys talked about it. One of those things that shared common was that coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But then there was a lot of different components to it. So even though that coffee piece is similar, they're not the same, right? But when you're out on that morning run or trying to get someplace, that may be a stop, either Starbucks or Dunkin', whatever your preference is, to get you going. But when we're thinking of these places, right, Starbucks, Dunkin', they may have similarities, but they're also drastically different. And that's what we need to remember as we're presenting ourselves as a job seeker, that professional brand. We have similarities against other applicants, right? If we're applying to the same job, we're going to have similar qualifications, some, background, maybe education's the same. But we also have our unique experiences. We have our unique abilities and how we can be presenting those. So you want to be thinking of yourself as an individual and how you can use that to present your brand and really show that value to the employer.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important, you may have the same degree as this other person that's applying for the job, but what makes you stand out? What are you offering that maybe this other person doesn't have?
Yeah, exactly. When going through a job search, this podcast and career service professionals like us can help you go through that process of discovering and presenting your professional brand to employers.
So let's talk a little bit more about what a career services office is. So we're going to definitely be spending a lot of time talking about professional branding. A career service office is here to help you with that. So whether it's ours or another career service office, that's literally our job, is to help you figure out, first of all, what is that brand? And also, how do I present it on a resume? How do I present it in an interview? And really, that is the big focus of our podcast. But just to learn a little bit more about us, we are College of DuPage. We're a community college located 25 miles-ish outside of Chicago, Illinois. But again, regardless of where you're listening, you can connect with your local community college, your local university, or go back to your alma mater. And I promise they're going to have a career services office that can help you. All schools have a different structure, but for us, all of our services are free to students, alumni, and community members. And again, hopefully we're going to be spreading those services beyond our college with this podcast. We can help with career research, with the job search, and that includes resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and anything else to better present yourself to employers. And again, if you've got a topic recommendation or a question, we want to hear it. Follow us, on social media, send us an email, and you will help us shape this podcast and what we talk about.
Let's take some time just to define core components to the job search and how they connect to your professional brand. Michelle, to make sure we're all on the same page, can you talk a little bit about the resume and why it's important?
Sure. Yes, I love resumes. So resumes are a way to really represent yourself and sell yourself. So they're not a historical document, though. I think a lot of times students and clients think, okay, I have to add every single thing I've ever done on my resume. But it's really not a historical document. It's more so a sales document. So it's going to include important information about your training, your skills, experiences that you've had. And as we kind of mentioned, we want to make sure to customize it or tailor it to each job posting, because employers are going to have different goals and they're going to have different needs and what they want from a candidate as well. So our main goal with the resume is to basically catch that employer's attention and stand out with that professional brand.
I love it. That whole idea of it not being a historical document, but a sales document. Great way to put that in perspective, because it's really about presenting yourself and tailoring it to that employer. So Rebecca, in the same way, can you talk about cover letters?
Yeah, cover letters is something I think kind of gets pushed off to the end, right? But they are pretty important. So cover letters are a way for us to introduce ourselves to the employer. But I think what's important is to remember that they are a place to kind of show us almost like as a person. The resume can be very dry with just kind of listing things. Whereas with the cover letter, we get to tell stories. And it's important to have it not just be a repeat of what's on the resume, but in fact supporting what's on the resume. And just like the resume, it should absolutely be tailored to the job and to the company that we're sending it to. And sometimes people will ask, do I need to have a cover letter? And the answer is yes, unless they specifically say no cover letter, which some employers will do that. But if they say submit a cover letter or it's optional, we always say it's not optional. You definitely need to have it.
Why miss out on the opportunity to sell yourself more?
Absolutely.
So Michelle, handing it back to you. Can you talk a little bit about LinkedIn?
Sure. So LinkedIn is like a professional Facebook. So you can find job opportunities here, but it's also a really great networking tool and a way to just control your brand, just like your resume is. So you can also control how employers are seeing you when they search for your name online as well, or Google you. So again, the reason why LinkedIn is super important is because it's important to have a professional social media presence. But again, it's a way to control your brand too.
Yeah, so with the resume, cover letter, these are documents that we're sharing here. We're sharing it all the time, 24/7 access to that professional brand.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about that. LinkedIn is always there for people to see, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing those thoughts on those core ideas, those core areas of professional branding. And I hope our listeners, you're getting excited to hear more about these topics as we move forward. From a career services perspective, we can provide a lot of our services through appointments and by connecting job seekers to other resources. In future episodes, you'll hear of our resource of the day as we try to make sure you're connected to them. But I'm going to hand it off to Michelle to talk about a resource that you can use moving forward through your job search, regardless of where you're at.
So I'm going to be talking about our website. So that's a really great place to find out more about our resources. On the main page, we do have information about our office. So that includes how to schedule an appointment with us directly to discuss career-related topics such as resumes, cover letters, interviewing, and so much more. To schedule an appointment, you will use the service request form, or you also have an option to request an e-review if you want your documents reviewed electronically. We look at them, we add our comments, and we get back to you within 5 business days, so that's very convenient. We also have electronic resources available at any time, and if you are a listener at another school, your university website may also have these resources as well, but you can use ours for free. So we do have a free electronic job board. We have a career exploration website, interviewing software, and we also have something called Blackboard. So Blackboard is a website, and it's a way for students to get access to their classes and class material, but we also have a page on Blackboard for career services. So this specifically houses our grab-and-go resources like resume and cover letter samples, interviewing tips, and if you don't attend COD, you still have access to our resources by clicking on Preview as Guest rather than logging in as a student. And I believe Rebecca mentioned this, but all of our resources are available for students, alumni, and community members to use as well. I also wanted to mention experiential learning and our webinars. So for experiential learning, this is a great way to gain experience in your field of interests. So we have internships, which you can get academic credit for. With these experiences, we also have service learning, so you're able to actually volunteer in the community and it's a part of a class. We also have webinars too. So at noon on Wednesdays, you can learn more about career-related topics. And then Thursdays, we have our demo days or demonstration days for our software. And these webinars are available all year round as well. So this is just a small preview of what we have to offer. We're going to definitely do a deeper dive into specific resources in later episodes, so be sure to subscribe for that content.
Thank you, Michelle. That's great. And I think these are all things that, of course, our students at College of DuPage can access. But actually, a lot of these, any listener from anywhere, you can go and access these resources. As Michelle mentioned, with Blackboard, you can preview as guest and you'll be able to access it. And our webinars are available to anyone that registers. All right. So every episode, we will answer one of your questions, right? Pierre mentioned this earlier. We are going to do listener questions at the end of every episode. So we want your questions. I think I gave this earlier, but you can send us an email at careerpodcast@cod.edu, careerpodcast@cod.edu, or you can find us on social media at COD Career Center and send us your questions there. But I'm going to go ahead and start us off this episode with a question that we get all the time, which is, how long should my resume be? Every resume can be different, but in general, 1 page is usually long enough to give an employer. Enough information for them to know your background, to decide if they want to interview you. However, some people may have enough experience in their background to need 2 pages for their resume. This is also fine. What we don't want, though, is 1 page with just a little bit on the second page. If you're going to have 2 pages, then make sure it's 2 full pages. Show them that, you've got that experience, and so it warrants 2 pages. If you have 1 page with just a little bit on the second page, then it's better to reformat it so that it's all fitting on that 1 page. Some people who have been working for a long time might even have 3 pages or 4 pages on their resume, but most of the time that's going to be a bit too much information for an employer. that TLDR, right? They're not going to read 3 or 4 pages. So try to keep it to 1 or 2 pages. And really, I think that kind of goes back to Michelle, where you were talking about earlier, that it's a sales document, right? Not a historical document. We don't have to have everything on it, right? We only want the most important information. And usually we can fit that on that 1 to 2 pages. Anything I missed on resume length or anything you guys want to add?
Just from that perspective of it's a balance between the recent and the relevant. So when we're talking about from the employer, recent is typically within the last 10 to 15 years. I mean, there's a wiggle room based off of experiences and what you would want to share. But what's that relevant content? So as you're trying to think, is this important enough for my 2-page resume? If your resume is that 3 pages, we'll start balancing that recent and relevant to help identify.
That's a great way of thinking about it, recent and relevant.
Yeah, I was just going to add too, I may have mentioned this already, but it's okay to have a master resume. So if you want to add all of your experiences in one place and then tailor it as you're starting to apply to different jobs, that's an option too.
Oh, I love that idea. Yeah, I can just file save as and just take out the stuff then, right?
Exactly.
That we don't need. That's great.
Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today as we learned more about how to build your professional brand. Next week, we're going to be interviewing our Workforce Connections coordinator, Bob Lipinski, on trends in today's job market. You won't want to miss it.
Be sure to follow us on social media at COD Career Center. Thanks, everybody.